President-elect Obama has offered details of how he plans to fix an economy in crisis. One of our guests says things are getting better, while the other says Obama is going to, quote, help destroy the country.
If you've seen these two guests, you can probably decide which one said which. Only one of them can be right, however, so we're going to let you decide. Peter Schiff is the president of Euro-Pacific Capital. He's the author of Crash Proof, How to Profit from the Coming Economic Collapse. Stephen Lieb is the president of Lieb Capital Management. Let's just randomly toss it up to Stephen first. What do you think? You think that...
I want to say something about Stephen first. Because, Stephen, a couple of weeks ago, you said, look, things are going to get a little better in mortgage refinancings. It wasn't just a one-month blip. I think people are going to be able to refinance, and they're going to see activity there, and that mortgage rates are going to get low, and that's going to be a little trigger for the economy. And you were right. We've seen that lately.
Yeah. I mean, mortgage financings and mortgage applications are now well above 10-year averages, almost close to all-time highs. In fact, the only time they've ever been higher was when the bubble started in the early 2000s. If you go back to 1990, they're near record levels. Yeah. I mean, we see a lot of economic data that suggests we're pulling away from the extremes. I mean, I know the employment data today was horrible. There's no doubt. But if you look at unemployment insurance claims for the last 2 weeks, big surprises. Energy demand is up 11 or 12% or 15% from its low. Commodities are up 15% from their lows. Even the stock market after the last couple of days is up 15, 16% from its lows. I'm just talking facts, Peter. I know you're upset when people talk facts, but I'm just talking facts. Well, no, I mean,
nothing goes straight down.
But as Christine said, no, when you're at all-time highs, Peter, you really don't have to say it's a trend. I know you don't like trends. I know you don't like numbers. I know you don't like facts. But when you see mortgage applications very close to all-time highs are all-time highs.
They're refis.
No, they're not refis.
Well,
they're more than that.
Paint us your picture, Peter. Paint us your picture.
Yeah,
well, wait a second. If they are refis, don't they mean money into the economy? Excuse me.
Well, the government's giving away cheap money, so people are lining up for it.
We're not arguing about that. I'm just saying there's money coming into the economy.
Stephen's got a perspective that indicates that we might have bottomed out, or in some parts of the economy, and maybe there's some hope at the end of the tunnel. You think that that light at the end of the tunnel is probably still a train?
Exactly. It's a big train.
Tell me what you think. Tell me where you think we are.
Well, look, we have a serious problem, and unfortunately the government is making it worse. The reason that we're in trouble, or one reason, is we simply borrowed and spent too much money from the federal government, the state governments, Wall Street, individual households. We need to retrench. We need to reduce our spending and increase our savings. And, of course, what Barack Obama is trying to do is the opposite. He's trying to force-feed more borrowing and spending into the economy.
Do you like his tax cuts?
No, I mean, I like tax cuts if the government cuts spending. We need less government. And if we want lower taxes, we need a smaller government. And look, that's the state governments. That's the state governments, too. You know, in his plan, he says that he wants to give money to the states so they don't have to make cuts. They need to make cuts.
Let me ask Peter just one question. You don't mind. Just one question, Peter. Has there ever been a case where any country, anywhere in modern times has gotten out of a severe recession, depression, without massive government stimulation?
Government stimulus doesn't get you out of recession.
The answer is no. No, the answer is no.
Steve, you're wrong.
Where? Give me the example. Give me the example.
Look.
No, give me the example.
No, nobody has ever let me talk. Look, all of the past stimulus that we have used to quote-unquote get us out of recessions, that's why we're in this mess. You know, the government interferes in the economy and exacerbates the problems. The recessions are the cures for the artificial booms that governments create. And when we come in...
What would the consequence be? Let's follow this thought out for a second. What would the consequence be, Peter, if there wasn't government intervention? Because honestly, the proportion of people who now say that the government shouldn't be involved was larger 3-4 months ago when we're discussing stimulus. It has become much smaller.
Right.
Your crowd is getting smaller.
I know, but it's wrong. The government can't do anything. The government doesn't have any wealth. All they can do is redistribute the wealth that we have in the private sector. But when they do that, they make us less efficient.
Can I just say one thing? I mean, I asked Peter this question before. One example.
I told you, there has never been, Stephen, there has never been an economic downturn where the government has helped.
No, I'm not asking that, Peter. That's not what I'm asking. You have a remarkable ability not to listen. And the question I'm asking, Peter, is there any example from the United States in the 1930s, etc., of a country coming out of a depression without massive government stimulation?
When has there been a depression?
In the 30s, it took the war to get us out, Peter.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Steve,
what did then?
Look,
what did get us out?
What got us out of the depression was capitalism. We would have got out a lot quicker had the government not intervened. That is one of the biggest revisionist histories here.
Christine made earlier, and that is that the only year in which we had larger job losses than we did in 2008 was 1945, when the war ended. In fact, when the war ended, capitalism didn't say anything.
No, the soldiers lost their jobs. There was a transition.
And manufacturers lost their jobs. Manufacturing workers lost their jobs.
But we had an economic boom. The market did it. There was a reallocation. We had all of our labor involved in the military. There was a transition to civilian employment.
If you look at government in 1940, when we came out of the war, it was much larger as a percentage of GDP than it is today. Much larger.
Because we had a war. Because
that's exactly my point, Peter.
But Steve,
now thank you for agreeing with me.
But the war wasn't a good thing. No, it didn't. The war didn't help the economy.
I guess it depends how you felt about Hitler, Peter. But I mean, you can really argue that.
This is a spirited and friendly discussion. I promise this is a friendly discussion.
I mean, really, it depends.
Steve, wars don't help. We had to fight the war. It was a burden we had to bear. It didn't help the economy.
And Peter, who should fight the wars in your opinion?
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm just asking you another question. You have a remarkable ability not to answer the question.
You have a remarkable not to understand.
For the sake of commercial breaks and the fact that we actually, you know, have to...
Didn't we say last time that we're going to have like an online version that people could just keep on watching this?
No, listen, each of you, 30 seconds. Wrap up where you think we're going, what the dangers are here, and why you think that the dangers might be behind us. You go first.
All right, look, what's going to happen now is instead of allowing the free market to function, to rebalance this economy, the government is going to force us deeper and deeper into debt. They're going to print more and more money, and the crisis that they're setting up right now is going to be a major run on the value of the U.S. dollar. The dollar is going to plunge, and that's going to send interest rates and consumer prices literally through the roof in this country, and this is going to be an inflationary depression that is an exact consequence of the government.
That's 30. You get 30.
I'll just borrow something from Hayek, which I'm sure Peter's familiar with, but well, maybe not. Road to Serfdom. I mean, his two major examples are the Soviet Union and I think Germany. Both those economies moved toward totalitarianism on the back of severe depressions. And that's what I want to avoid. I'm willing to tolerate some government now to avoid a dictator like Hitler later on.
That's not what you're avoiding.
That's setting it up. We're going to stop on that. We're going to stop on that. That's the rules. That's, you know, both of these guys do agree that
and they're very
precious metals
passionate
are a
about
good
it.
investment.
There is some agreement.
There is some
because of the foolish monetary policies he advocates, gold's going way up.
Peter's remarkably uninformed about economics.
Our jobs could be in jeopardy because they're going to take the show.
That's absolutely right.
Tune in next week for Your Money with Stephen Lieb and Peter Schiff.
All right, your future could be in jeopardy. U.S. national security could be in jeopardy, but you might want to be surprised to hear why.